Hello, my name is Sarah Hatterley.
And I am Jironmy Fernandez.
For our semester project, we chose the topic of domestic violence advocacy.
So this topic falls under the social work fields of family and child welfare and crisis intervention. The populations we focused on were survivors of domestic violence, mainly racial minority women and their children.
Our research primarily focused on intimate partner violence and the obstacles that prevent survivors from obtaining the resources and support they need to heal, regain stability, and move forward in life. The evidence-based approaches we will talk about are trauma-informed care, empowerment-based advocacy, and intervention training for providers.
Okay, and then this would be our common needs slide. So the most common barriers survivors of domestic violence face are immediate crisis intervention, emergency shelters, safety planning, trauma-informed emotional support, mental health counseling, and resources.
Other common needs are legal advocacy, such as protective orders and child custody support, stable housing, financial help, employment, and child care support, long-term empowerment, and self-sufficiency planning.
Okay, for our project, we interviewed with Gina Millard. She is a licensed clinical social worker at Silver Hills Elementary. Before becoming a school social worker, she worked for DCFS as a caseworker and she handled multiple domestic violence cases. So she has a wide range of experience supporting children and families affected by abuse. The structure of the school is rather simple. Gina reports directly to the school principal while collaborating with teachers, counselors, and outside agencies. And then in her role as a school social worker, Gina provides a wide range of support for students and families. One of the things she does is create small groups only with parent permission where she teaches students behavioral skills, coping strategies, and emotional regulations.
She also makes sure that families have access to the resources they need, whether that's mental health services, food support, or community programs. For students experiencing domestic violence, she serves as an advocate and trusted voice. Another major part of her job involves responding to crisis situations. This could include family emergencies, concerns about self-harm, or anything that puts a student at risk. She creates safety plans with students and their families, and she even uses end-of-day checkout contracts to check in with students regularly to make sure they are home safe before, are they are safe before they go home.
Okay, and then here is our interview insights. So we asked Gina 5 questions related to domestic violence, including how she approaches these cases, how they have impacted her professionally and personally, and how she responds in different situations. Below, we present each question along with her responses. My first question is going to be, would you find it challenging to frame questions appropriately when discussing domestic violence with your clients? When asked whether it was challenging to discuss domestic violence with clients, she explained that it was difficult at first for her because she didn't yet understand like the full cycle of abuse. Over time, she learned that before asking sensitive questions to determine whether they recognize the abuse. And then our next question is going to be, have you experienced any personal or professional challenges when working with cases involving domestic violence? She shared that early in her career, she struggled to understand why people stayed in abusive relationships. As she learned more about trauma, she developed a deeper understanding of how trauma bonds and fear affect decision making for peers.
Next, we asked, do you collaborate with other schools or other agencies that support young women who have or children who have been exposed to domestic violence? She expressed that she frequently collaborates with teachers, counselors, and other social workers and outside agencies. At DCFS, she noticed that the resources were quite limited and families often saw social workers as threatening, which made collaboration with them quite hard. The next question was, has your work with domestic violence cases influenced your own resilience? She explained that domestic violence work has made her more empathetic and more aware of her own judgments. She also pushed it also pushed her to learn more about available resources and the legal impact of domestic violence on children. In our last question, we asked, in your professional opinion, what factors make it difficult for young women to escape domestic violence? Gina emphasized that the biggest barriers are finances, lack of supportive family and friends, and the challenges of leaving when children are involved. These factors often kept young women trapped in unsafe situations and relationships.
And then this slide is going to be about the positives and negatives upon the social work field. So for our positives, Gina shared that one of the most fulfilling aspects of her work is the opportunity to advocate for vulnerable students and promote social justice within the school community. She finds meaning in using her intervention skills to navigate difficult situations and values the strong, trusting relationship she builds with students and families. Another major positive is being part of efforts that directly support safety and stability for children experiencing crisis or violence.
She also acknowledged several challenges she faced in the field. The emotional burden of the work can become quite overwhelming at times, and safety concerns occasionally rise, including instances where social workers may receive threats. She emphasized how difficult it is to support students who are afraid of going home, as well as ongoing struggles of working within the system that often lacks sufficient resources to fully meet the needs of families.
And this slide is going to be our ethical considerations. So one of the most important parts of Gina's work is following the ethical guidelines. She talked about maintaining strong boundaries with students and families and keeping her personal life private so students don't feel blurred lines. She avoids self-disclosure unless it directly supports the student's emotional needs. Gina also emphasized keeping relationships professional and always prioritizing safety, trust, and confidentiality in every case. Um, and then our agency background operates within the Granite School District at the elementary school level, where the school social worker serves as part of the College and Career Readiness Department. The agency supports all students, including those affected by domestic violence or family instability. The school social worker collaborates closely with teachers, counselors, and administrations to address students' emotional, behavioral, and academical needs.
Their mission is to provide trauma-informed care, school-based interventions, and prevention programs designed to mitigate the negative effects of domestic violence on children. Because exposure to domestic violence can significantly influence students' behavior, academic performance, and emotional well-being. The social worker frequently coordinates with external agencies such as the Division of Child and Family Services and other welfare organizations. These partnerships allow for additional support, including access to shelters, crisis response services, and safety planning for students and their families.
Our next slide is going to be the salaries between a school social worker and a DCFS social worker. So, for salaries, the DCFS caseworkers in Utah typically start around $15 an hour according to current state listings. School social workers, especially in Granite School District, usually earn more, so around 57,000 to 80,000 a year, with an average near 70,000 based on job sites such as Glassdoor or Indeed. Overall, school social work tends to offer higher pay and more stability compared to a DCFS entry level roles. And then this slide is going to be of our research findings. So for Article 1, the study showed that many healthcare and social service workers don't feel trained or confident when responding to domestic violence. So without clear protocols, they struggle to screen and report abuse. The research shows how important trauma-informed training and teamwork are for helping survivors safely. Our next article is going to be that many states still use outdated domestic violence intervention models. These older approaches don't consider trauma or mental health, which makes services less effective. The study shows the need for updated evidence-based programs that better meet survivors' needs.
Our third article is focused on racial minority women who have faced additional barriers like financial strain and limited support. Many also distrust the system, which makes it hard to seek help. It also shows cultural and systematic issues, impact and on safety and what social workers need to address in the future. Our last article found that young women who grow up around domestic violence are more likely to experience it in their own relationships as they age. Earlier exposure affects their development and future coping skills. The research highlights why prevention, school support, and education on boundaries are so very important.
Okay, this role of a school social work demonstrates core social work functions. So, crisis intervention, trauma-informed practice, advocacy, and connecting families to resources. So it highlights how social workers are essential in schools, especially for children experiencing instability or domestic violence.
Our interview with Gina gave us a clearer understanding of what it's like to support students and families affected by domestic violence. Her experience with both DCFS and the school setting showed how important trauma-informed care, advocacy, and collaboration are in helping survivors stay safe and access the needed resources. We also learned the key challenges and rewards of this field. While the work can be emotionally heavy and limited by resources, it also offers meaningful opportunities to protect families and create real change. Overall, this project helped us better understand the vital role of social workers play in crisis support and family welfare. And here are our references. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.